Chances are, every time you boot up your copy of Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald, you'll be greeted with, "The internal battery has run dry. The game can be played." However, clock-based events will no longer occur. I'm sure you know by now that means the battery is dead. If you're thinking of replacing the battery, please watch this video before doing it. I've seen plenty of tutorials that show you how to replace the battery, but they never mention what happens to your game after the fact, or even how to actually get the clock working again. I'm covering all bases of before, during, and after replacing the battery, so I'm making this a thorough guide on how to completely fix the internal battery. I've put timestamps in the description so you can find the answers you're looking for. This guide is a compilation of sources I've gathered, which will also be included in the description. In case anyone has literally no prior knowledge about the internal battery, Pokémon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald are constantly keeping track of time with this little CR1616 battery. As with any battery, that will eventually run dry, and in turn, the game no longer keeps track of time. Thankfully, unlike Gens 1 and 2, your save file should be intact, since it's saved in a different component called the SRAM chip. However, as the warning suggests, time-based events no longer work. The moment your battery cannot supply enough power, time literally stops, and you can no longer do anything that relies on time passing. Usually these batteries last 5 to 7 years. Fire Red and Leaf Green don't have this issue because they don't have those batteries, aka they don't track time. Side note, if your game constantly says the previous save file will be loaded every time you boot up the game, you most likely have a bootleg, which is completely different from the internal battery dying. So what events are affected when the clock freezes? Arguably the most impacted features are recurring events, such as daily berries all over Hoenn, the lottery in Lily Cove City, the old man in Pacific Log Town trying to spot Mirage Island, unless time somehow stops the day he spots it, secret base battles, which can be circumvented if you mix records every time, and this NPC also in Pacific Log Town that gives you a TM every 7 days. Since the clock is stopped at a particular time, you also can't access time-based events, like growing berries, accessing the other Tide in Shoal Cave, or evolving Eevee to either Espeon or Umbreon. It's also much harder to evolve Phoebus into Milotic because you need Pokeblocks, which are made from berries. It's quite a lot that you're missing out without the clock. So how can we fix it so that time works again? Well, the answer is a lot less straightforward, on top of having multiple solutions. Disclaimer, if you're going to attempt these methods, please be careful for both you and your game. We don't want save files accidentally being lost. First off, you obviously need to replace the battery, regardless of whichever method you choose. Make sure to use the correct sized battery, which is CR1616. You can technically use a bigger battery, but I would advise against that. I did that before and it caused my cartridge to have a little bulge that would never insert smoothly, and it eventually rubbed off a bit of the sticker, so don't do what I did. I would highly recommend buying batteries that come pre-tabbed off of eBay or Amazon, just to make it easier for yourself. If you can, please use a soldering iron to replace the battery. Using tape will work for a bit, but it's not reliable for keeping the battery in place. Soldering is a very helpful skill to have in general, because a lot of retro games need batteries to be replaced. There are plenty of YouTube tutorials on how to solder batteries for Nintendo games. Plus, it's a much safer way of keeping the new battery in its place. Just make sure to handle intense heat with care. While this is not a soldering tutorial, I will give some pointers. The things you need are a soldering iron, solder, the new CR1616 battery, and a special tri-wing screwdriver, which you can all easily find on eBay or Amazon. Do not pry out the battery. That's what the soldering iron is for. I always forget this, but make sure you solder the battery in the right orientation, positive to positive and negative to negative. The tab with the giant plus underneath should match the plus icon on the circuit board. So now that you're basically a soldering master, nothing was damaged, the new battery is secured, you boot up your game and the message is gone. Hooray! But the journey is not quite over. Unfortunately, it gets more complicated. There are loads of tutorials on how to replace the battery, but most of them never explain what happens after you replace it. Here's the thing, even though time is technically moving again, it's not actually moving properly. No one told me that you're essentially encountering the berry glitch again, where time is technically moving but berries stop growing. Not only that, daily events still don't work. That kind of defeats the purpose of replacing the battery in the first place. Weirdly enough, Shoal Cave and evolving Eevee into Espeon or Umbreon now work, since they rely on the current time and not the passage of time. I did not know this when I replaced the battery. I was not happy that my copy of Emerald still had not grown this poor berry for 2 years. So this is me telling you now, when you replace the battery, that does not mean everything will be fixed just like that. So what happened? Well, the internal battery contains something called a real-time clock, or RTC, which first activates when you create a new save file and set the clock in your room, starting the date on January 1st, 2000. Let's say the internal battery dies in exactly 5 years. This means that time froze on January 1st, 2005. This is where the caveat comes. When you replace the battery, the RTC resets all the way back to January 1st, 2000, which means that time-based events, such as berries or the lottery, are frozen until the RCT passes January 1st, 2005, meaning it would take 5 whole years to wait for time to actually work again. But then if you actually wait 5 years, there's a chance that the new battery will die before time fixes itself. Do you see the problem here? Time is still basically frozen. I doubt many people replaced the battery just to get rid of that warning message. I assume they want to grow berries again and all that, without creating a whole new save file. So now what? After all that effort, still nothing seems to be working? Unfortunately, yes, because of course things are never that simple. Remember how creating a new save file starts the RCT on January 1st, 2000? It seems like the only way to completely fix the clock is to wipe all your progress. But what if I told you that you can fix the clock without restarting your file? We're gonna need something that can edit the RCT to make it work again. The secret is having a flash cart. You may or may not have one lying around, but I'm sure you can easily find one online. It doesn't matter if it's a DS or a GBA flash cart, though I'm sure more people have a DS flash cart, as long as they're able to download homebrew software. Make sure to also get a micro SD adapter to plug into your computer. I've only tested with a DS flash cart, so that's what I'm gonna go over. What we're going to be downloading is a program called RTC Read, which is able to read and write the real-time clock. You can use the link in the description to reach this website. All you need to do is download RTC Read-DS, insert the micro SD adapter into your computer, and drag the file into the micro SD card. Now insert Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald and the flash cart into your DS, load up RTC Read-DS, press start, and you'll see the current date and time of your game. In order to get the time to work again, you'll want to increase the date to match or surpass when the original battery died, but you may not know when that date is. So just to be super safe, I would set the date to the real life current date. You most likely have to finagle with the time if you want to match the real world time. Check the clock in your room as a reference. Basically trial and error. If you had any berries planted when you changed the clock, those will just disappear, which is expected. Now try planting a berry and checking the lottery. If you wait a day and see the berry growing and the lottery working, congratulations! Time is finally working and you didn't have to lose your save file. That's an achievement. I hope I was able to help and clear up any misconceptions about fixing the internal battery because I was on the same boat. I restarted Emerald twice because both times I had to replace the battery in order to fix the time, much to my dismay. But now that I'm aware of the actual problem and how to fix it, I never have to worry about starting over. And hopefully you don't either. I tried the flashcart method with a very old save file of Ruby. I properly replaced the battery, readjusted the real-time clock, planted some berries, and tested some daily events, and I'm happy to report that after a few months, the clock is still functioning as it should, and I didn't have to delete years of progress. So there you have it. There is a way to completely fix the internal battery. It might require you to shell out some money, but I'd say it's worth it if you want to preserve your save file. Fixing the clock is no simple task, but there do exist solutions out there that will help you enjoy Gen 3 like how it was back in the day. Thank you for watching. Hope I was able to help. If you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, goodbye.